Hey Church 220 family, this is Kate and Alex McConaughey. We're coming to you from our backyard. And so with that being the case, I think, it's probably okay to take these off.
I guess we'll risk it.
So we are coming to bring you your daily devotional. We're going to talk today about remembering what God has done. Alex and I have two different places in the Bible where we want to talk about where God tells us to remember Him, set up stones. And so you can hear in the background one of my favorite hymns called Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. The one playing is from Chris Rice. There's a lot of hymns that I love to sing. This is by far my favorite, and I sing it really loudly, but with other hymns too, and with this one, there's parts of it where you get to and you just kind of mumble through it. You're like, da 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 da, till you get to that verse that you really know, and then you sing it as loudly as you can. Well, this song has that in the second stanza, and I want you to listen to it and kind of learn from it. So if you'll listen.
Here I raise my Ebenezer, here by thy great help I've come.
So what the heck is an Ebenezer? Well, we're going to talk about it. If you'll open your Bibles, if you have them, we're going to go to 1 Samuel 7. We're going to start in verse 3. To give a little background, Israel has gone astray, and Samuel is there trying to pull them back to God. And Samuel said to all the house of Israel, if you are returning to the Lord with all your heart, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashereth from among you, and direct your heart to the Lord, and serve Him only, and He will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. So the people of Israel put away the Baals and the Ashereth, and they served the Lord only. Then Samuel said, gather all Israel at Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you. So they gathered at Mizpah, and drew water, and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted on that day, and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the people of Israel at Mizpah. Now when the Philistines heard that the people of Israel had gathered at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the people of Israel heard of it, they were afraid of the Philistines. And the people of Israel said to Samuel, do not cease to cry out from the Lord to the Lord our God for us, that He may save us from the hands of the Philistines. So Samuel took a nursing lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. And Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. As Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to attack Israel. But the Lord thundered with a mighty sound that day against the Philistines, and threw them into confusion, and they were defeated before Israel. And the men of Israel went out from Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and struck them as far as below Bethkar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shin, and called its name Ebenezer, for he said, till now the Lord has helped us. So now we know an Ebenezer is a stone of help. You see, God showed up for Israel. He showed up more than they ever expected. They ended up pursuing the Philistines instead of the Philistines taking them down. Alex has another great story that he's going to now share.
Sure. Dodge this jujitsu for a minute here. So the story I'm going to discuss here is in Joshua, the crossing over the Jordan River. At this time, we see this kind of earthly authority transitioning from Moses. He's now died, and now Joshua is kind of taking the reins and becoming the leader of Israel. So they're wanting to go to the promised land. They're looking to do that. They get a return. The spies return back from Jericho, have a good report. And say that the land is prime and ready for the taking, and ready for them to cross over. So at that point, the Lord speaks to Joshua, and He says to him in verse 7, 3 verse 7, and the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's water, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that He will clearly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. A lot of weird names there. So the Lord is preparing them in expectation. We see that Joshua also tells them to consecrate themselves for this journey over in preparation. Reading on, as we look in verse 13, let's see. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all of the earth set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. So we see almost this this parallel between the Red Sea. The people are crossing over this dry ground, across this body of water, across this river in this situation. So the people that are living at this point are primarily comprised of people that were never in Egypt and never really personally knew slavery. So all of those, the plagues that occurred, the Red Sea, and all of those things, the major things that we see during that time had already passed. So the Lord is kind of reaffirming himself to his people and wanting to give them another point where they can say, hey, this is what the Lord did for us, and they have a specific point in time that they can look at. So as we see in verse 17, the priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firmly on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all of Israel passed under. The whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. So we see that they made it through successfully. The Lord has told them what he was going to do, and he did those things. So the next thing that we see, Joshua, the Lord speaks to him and he says, tell the people to gather stones together, and we're going to make a memorial. So in verse 5, starting in verse 5, each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you in the future. When your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So like the stone in Kate's story and the stones in my story, this memorial, we see this sense of remembrance. Jesus even said, do this in remembrance of me. We are for the forgetful people. And we need to set up these things and remember the times that God carried us. We don't want to end up like the Israelites after they came out of Egypt and God had led them across the Red Sea and all of these types of things. They built a golden calf. We're not wanting to depart from him. So how do we parallel this to today in our current situations? Well, as we deal with this crazy pandemic right now, there's fears out there. There's some realistic, some unrealistic. We're fighting this battle in our minds of just fear. But we need to remember what God has done for us in the past. There's things in my life, just like the Israelites here. There's things in my life and Kate's life that we can point back to and say, this is where God was there. He carried us, here and here and here, and we can trust on Him to carry us, through this time and times in the future. So we need to make sure we trust and rely on Him and set up these stones, write them down. Just create that concrete memory in your mind.
Yeah. We love y'all. We look forward to seeing y'all again soon. And until that time, I guess we'll mask up.
Safety first.
Safety first.